The Light We Carry continues a long tradition of U.S. First Ladies sharing their personal experiences and perspectives through memoirs and other literary works. The first such memoir was written by Abigail Adams, the wife of President John Adams, and published in 1840 under the title Letters of Mrs. Adams. Other First Ladies followed suit over the years. Dolly Madison published a memoir and letters in 1886, and Helen Taft, the wife of President William Taft, released her own memoir Recollections of Full Years in 1914. Over the decades, more First Ladies contributed memoirs, making the genre increasingly common. Edith Wilson, Grace Coolidge, and Lady Bird Johnson, whose A White House Diary outsold her husband's memoir, all released personal accounts. Subsequent memoirs from Rosalind Carter, Betty Ford, and Barbara Bush also proved more popular than their husbands' books, highlighting a trend in which the personal stories of First Ladies garnered significant attention. These books ranged from light-hearted reflections on clothing and social events to more politically charged works where the authors defended their husbands' administrations or addressed political disputes. By the time Michelle Obama left the role of First Lady in 2016, writing memoirs had become a well-established tradition, and expectations were high. In 2018, Obama's memoir Becoming was published to massive success, with a $60 million advance from her publisher, Crown, and reported sales of over 17 million copies globally. The book's popularity demonstrated her widespread appeal and solidified her reputation as a leader with her own distinctive story and personality, resonating with readers not just in America but worldwide. Her second book, The Light We Carry, breaks new ground in the realm of First Ladies' memoirs. Unlike previous works, which focused mostly on personal stories or political commentary, Obama combines memoir with self-help advice, directly engaging her readers and offering life lessons. She integrates personal anecdotes with practical guidance, often responding to questions or letters from her supporters. This blending of memoir and self-help taps into the growing American interest in self-improvement, using a tone and style typical of the genre. Obama's message also resonates strongly with themes of racial discrimination and the experience of being different, which she frequently addresses, especially given her unique position as the first Black First Lady. Her exploration of what it means to be visible and different, both personally and professionally, forms a central theme of the book. Through The Light We Carry, Obama uses her personal experiences to engage with the challenges faced by visible minorities, particularly Black Americans. She addresses issues such as the struggle between conforming or living authentically, dealing with discrimination, and confronting racist behavior. She also weaves in stories of other notable figures of color, including Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, civil rights leader John Lewis, academic W.E.B. Du Bois, and actor Mindy Kaling, using these examples to underscore her insights. Since its release in 2022, The Light We Carry has become a bestseller, reaffirming Obama's continued popularity and reflecting the public's ongoing fascination with the lives and works of First Ladies. Part 1, Introduction Summary. In the introduction to The Light We Carry, Michelle Obama reflects on her father Fraser's battle with multiple sclerosis, a condition that gradually diminished his mobility. As his illness progressed, Fraser relied on aids like a cane, crutches, motorized carts, and a van to maintain his independence. Despite the challenges, Obama remembers that her father never complained about his pain or disability. She wonders if his silence about his suffering was simply the code he chose to live by. This experience helped her understand what it means to be different and how it shapes one's life. Obama realizes that her father's condition affected the family's decisions, from daily errands to special outings, as they had to adapt to his changing needs. She uses her father's reliance on physical aids as a metaphor for the psychological tools that people, especially those who feel different from others, use to navigate life. These tools, she argues, help people overcome obstacles in a world that may be unaccommodating to their differences. Obama notes that while society often socializes those who are different to be more cautious, the true challenge is to be bold in overcoming the barriers they face. Obama also reflects on the emotional process of writing her previous memoir, Becoming. Although sharing her story was liberating after years of carefully managing her image as First Lady, the release of the book made her feel vulnerable. She worried about how it would be received and whether she was good enough. However, the positive response to the book, and the affirming experience of her book tour, made her feel deeply appreciated. She fondly recalls the diversity of people who expressed interest in the book, and how their open and accepting nature gave her joy and affirmation. The introduction also touches on the trauma and anxiety caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as other troubling issues in American society, such as police brutality, hate crimes, and the January 6 Capitol riots. Obama acknowledges the fear and anger many people, including herself, feel in response to these crises. Many have sought her advice as they face their own personal challenges, and she emphasizes that, while she doesn't claim to have a formula for overcoming these struggles, she hopes that The Light We Carry offers insights from her own personal toolbox. The book is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 focuses on discovering one's personal strength, Part 2 explores the importance of relationships, and Part 3 discusses how to protect and nurture your inner light during difficult times. Obama stresses that the world has gone through a period of profound loss and upheaval due to the pandemic and other societal issues. Rather than focusing on the end of these turbulent times, she encourages readers to ask themselves, how do we adapt? How do we get more comfortable, less paralyzed, inside of uncertainty? She hopes that her book will inspire conversations about resilience, mutual support, and how to navigate these challenging moments. Part 1, Chapter 1 Summary. In Chapter 1 of The Light We Carry, Michelle Obama reflects on her experience adjusting to life under lockdown during the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. She recalls feeling shocked and saddened by the stress and danger that many essential workers, especially healthcare professionals, endured. The rising unemployment rates and the overwhelming death toll underscored, for Obama, the acute unfairness of our world. The drastic change from her usual busy life left her feeling out of control, increasing her anxiety. She admits to struggling with the loss of her packed schedule, a source of pride for her as a driven individual. Obama questions whether her obsession with being busy is inherent to her personality or something learned from her hard-working parents. Throughout her life, from being a successful student to becoming a lawyer, she felt a sense of accomplishment tied to her productivity, but she confesses she never had time for hobbies, until, during the lockdown, she took up knitting. Obama shares that her grandmother was a professional seamstress, supporting her family by mending clothes, but her father never wanted her to learn this skill. Instead, he encouraged her to pursue a life in which she could afford new clothes. Despite the benefits of busyness, especially in her role as First Lady, Obama acknowledges that it also made her feel overwhelmed at times. She often repressed her complaints and emotional pain because there was no time to dwell on the negatives. She compares staying busy to wearing a suit of armor that makes it harder to fully process hurt and emotions. Obama also reflects on the emotional toll of Donald Trump's election to the presidency, which she found deeply painful. His victory seemed to amplify hatred and division, challenging her optimism about the future of America. During this time, she felt demoralized and questioned whether the nation's problems were too large to solve. Despite these feelings, when asked by Democratic leaders to give a speech, she was reluctant but ultimately agreed. At that time, knitting became a meditative practice for her, offering a source of comfort and helping her manage her anxiety. Focusing on small, calming tasks allowed her to escape the mental traps of overthinking and uncertainty. This new hobby gave her the space to regain perspective and reflect on the need for social progress. Reflecting on the sacrifices of her ancestors, Obama found the strength to speak out in a speech that criticized Trump's approach to politics, promoted empathy, and urged citizens to vote. She described this moment as helping her come out of a dark place, feeling the clarity that comes from speaking authentically. Obama credits knitting with helping her overcome feelings of inadequacy and anxiety. She argues that engaging in small, seemingly inconsequential tasks, like knitting, can help people go small in order to eventually think big. When facing overwhelming challenges, she often turns to small, manageable projects to regain her sense of control and focus. The chapter also explores Obama's work with her nonprofit, the Girls' Opportunity Alliance, in 2021, where she met adolescents from Chicago who had faced personal losses due to COVID, educational disruptions, and increased violence in their communities. Obama observed that these young people often oscillated between hope and despair, feeling both ambition and frustration at their circumstances. She acknowledges that many youth today feel paralyzed by the weight of personal struggles set against broader societal issues like climate change, poverty, and racism. Young people tend to be idealistic and impatient, wanting to create significant change immediately, but Obama urges them to recognize that taking care of their mental health is crucial to long-term success and resilience. She reassures them that self-care is not a form of defeat but an essential practice that prevents burnout and helps sustain their activism. Drawing from research, Obama explains that happier people are more likely to engage in social and political action, reinforcing the idea that self-care and balance are vital to maintaining a productive and sustainable activism. She encourages people to value small, personal goals, like completing school or saving money, just as much as their larger aspirations. Developing self-awareness and balance, she believes, is key to good health and overall productivity. When Obama feels out of balance, she focuses on relieving stress through walks, sleep, journaling, conversations with friends, or helping others. These small victories, or seemingly minor tasks, help her regain her footing and restore her mental and emotional balance. Part 1, Chapter 2 Summary. In Chapter 2 of The Light We Carry, Michelle Obama delves into the role of fear in our lives, arguing that while no one can truly be fearless, we can learn how to be comfortably afraid. This concept involves acknowledging our fears without letting them paralyze or dictate our decisions. Obama believes that fear, when approached with the right mindset, can be used to sensibly evaluate risks rather than avoiding them altogether. She reflects on a childhood memory where she was afraid of a giant stuffed turtle at a concert. Although her fear was irrational, Obama recognizes that such reactions are natural human responses to disorder or differentness. By confronting her fear and engaging in the experience, she realized that the stuffed turtle wasn't threatening. This childhood experience, she notes, was an early lesson in facing fear and recognizing its limits. Obama stresses that fear is a natural and necessary part of life, but many people tend to over-accommodate it by avoiding new experiences, which leads to a more sheltered existence. This avoidance can prevent personal growth and limit opportunities. She recalls the fear she initially felt when Barack Obama considered running for president. Saying no to the idea might have brought her temporary relief, but she soon realized that her fear stemmed more from the uncertainty and newness of the situation, rather than an actual danger. By examining her fear, Obama was able to reframe it and make a conscious decision to support her husband's political journey. She contrasts this with her grandfathers, both of whom faced difficult childhoods and racial discrimination, which shaped their distrustful view of the world. Obama reflects that their fears, which were passed down through generations, often held them back in life. She credits her parents for breaking the cycle of fear, particularly her mother, whom she describes as a goddess of competence. Obama explains that competence is the antidote to fear. Her mother's ability to handle challenges with confidence helped Obama approach life with a similar mindset. Obama recalls a formative moment from her childhood when her mother encouraged her to walk to school alone as a kindergartner. Although it was a small step, it was a crucial one in learning to face fear and build confidence. This experience shaped Obama's own approach to parenting. She works to help her daughters develop the competence to face their fears and take on new challenges. Obama also praises the way artist Lin-Manuel Miranda frames fear, describing how he channels nervous energy into rocket fuel for his performances. In closing the chapter, Obama reiterates the idea that the unknown is where possibility glitters. By confronting fear, we open ourselves to growth and transformative opportunities. She encourages readers to dissect their own fearful mind and understand how it reacts to better manage and challenge it in their lives. Part 1, Chapter 3 Summary. In the third chapter, Obama reflects on her friend Ron's habit of greeting himself with kindness each morning. This ritual made her think about how people relate to themselves. Ron, who is warm, confident, and successful, serves as an example of someone who practices self-compassion, while Obama notes that many, including herself, often struggle with negative thoughts about their appearance. Inspired by Ron's positive start to the day, Obama decided to adopt a similar practice of self-kindness. She also advocates for extending this kindness to others, citing Toni Morrison's advice that parents should greet their children with warmth and joy rather than criticism, as this can help build a child's self-esteem. Obama supports this idea with research showing that teachers who greet students with personal attention at the start of class foster better engagement. These small, positive interactions can set a positive tone for future relationships. She recalls her experiences hosting children at the White House, where her genuine warmth and affection made a lasting impact. Obama believes that beginning each day with positive thoughts can boost confidence and foster gratitude. She encourages people to notice when negative self-talk occurs and replace it with more affirming words to help counteract the inner critic and focus on feelings of gladness. In Chapter 4, Obama reflects on the psychological burden of feeling different, which can stem from various aspects of identity such as faith, ethnicity, or sexuality. She shares her own childhood experience of feeling self-conscious about her height, as she was much taller than other girls. This made her feel out of place, especially when she was often placed at the back of lines or on the back rows of stages. While her brother's strength was admired and helped him excel in basketball, Obama felt that her own physical strength was viewed as unwelcome. Inspired by the Olympian Nadia Comaneci, Obama joined an acrobatics class at age 12. However, when she saw shorter girls progressing faster than her, she became discouraged and quit. She also mentions the lack of athletic female role models, particularly black women, which made it difficult for her to envision herself in similar roles. As a teenager, Obama continued to struggle with fitting in, both physically and socially. Her self-consciousness about her height led her to develop critical self-talk, which in turn affected her self-esteem. She tells the story of a close friend who faced racism as the only black child in her neighborhood, a painful experience that lingered throughout her life. Obama contrasts her childhood in a predominantly black neighborhood in Chicago, where she never felt out of place, with her experience at Princeton. At 19, she entered a mostly white and male environment and immediately felt different and occasionally diminished. While she didn't feel entitled to be there, she noticed that some of her peers appeared at ease, without the need to prove themselves. Her admission to Princeton didn't make her feel like she truly belonged, and she struggled with feeling like a minority in a space where she often felt misunderstood. To cope, Obama sought out other black students and connected with a mentor who ran the Multicultural Center. These relationships helped her feel less isolated, as they reassured each other that their experiences with bias were real. However, she acknowledges that constant self-awareness of her differences can erode self-confidence, leading to insecurity. Obama also reflects on her father's perspective that a strong sense of self-worth cannot be shaken by others' negativity. Her father, despite facing injustices, chose not to let them define him and carried himself with a confidence from within. He encouraged his children to focus on the future, pursue education, and embrace curiosity and ambition. Obama admits that it took time for her to fully embrace this philosophy, but she eventually learned to accept the parts of herself that she could not change and to take pride in those aspects. By focusing on her own agency and letting go of others' negative judgments, she began to build a stronger sense of self. In Chapter 5, Obama discusses the importance of friendships in her life, emphasizing how essential they are for emotional balance and overall well-being. She credits her friends with providing her with emotional shelter, good humor, and a communal energy, which helped her navigate difficult times. She believes that strong, reliable friendships contribute not only to happiness but also to success, and that having friends to lean on has positively impacted her marriage. Both she and her husband, Barack, rely on their friends for support, which helps prevent them from placing all their emotional burdens on each other. Obama reflects on how her friends were a crucial source of support when her husband was elected president, especially as she adjusted to life in Washington, D.C., and her new role as First Lady. Despite the increasing demands on her time and the physical distance from her friends, Obama continued to prioritize and nurture these relationships. Obama also touches on the challenge many people face in forming new friendships, citing research that shows a significant number of Americans have few close friends or none at all. She points out how loneliness can have a negative impact on emotional health and encourages people to seek authentic connections beyond the digital realm. She notes that children's social lives have become more structured, which limits their opportunities to engage in unplanned, unsupervised interactions with peers. She believes that this type of free-form socialization is important for developing healthy relationships. The chapter also delves into the vulnerability involved in making new friends, as it often means facing the fear of rejection. Obama recalls feeling anxious about inviting new people into her life, especially during her time as First Lady, when there was constant public scrutiny and gossip. Despite this, she recognized that without new connections, she would feel isolated and lonely. As a result, she made the effort to build trust and friendships, even within the constraints of her high-profile role. This openness also extended to her and Barack's decision to host more public events at the White House, further fostering new connections. Obama highlights the benefits of social interactions, citing research that shows how they can reduce physical and mental health issues, such as anxiety and heart disease. She also acknowledges the negative impact the pandemic had on social interactions and notes how modern distractions like phones and music can make people more isolated. She references the Edelman Trust Barometer to illustrate how growing societal distrust also makes it harder to form meaningful connections, even simple, micro-connections like chatting with a stranger in line. The chapter concludes with Obama reflecting on how she feels supported by her friends, whom she refers to as her kitchen table, a term that symbolizes the intimate, comforting conversations she had as a child in her family's kitchen. She advises her daughters, and others, to never do life alone, and to put in the effort to find people with whom they can truly be themselves. She also shares a story about how Barack's close friends helped him cope with the pressures of the presidency by gathering annually at Camp David, a ritual that the Obamas continue to this day. Obama encourages people to cultivate their friendship circles intentionally and to make time for those relationships, such as through regular routines like weekly coffee dates. Ultimately, she emphasizes that a strong circle of friends acts as an ecosystem, one that supports and nurtures its members. In Chapter 6, Obama reflects on her daughter's journey into adulthood and the process of maturing, which she describes as an experimental one where individuals continuously learn, practice, and navigate their identities. A key part of growing up, she believes, is learning how to maintain healthy, loving relationships, a topic that people often seek her advice on. However, she acknowledges that offering advice on such a personal and varied subject is challenging, as relationships are something people must learn about through experience. Obama shares that her own marriage didn't unfold in the way she had initially expected, admitting that she had once idealized romantic relationships. She acknowledges that while her marriage is not perfect, her husband, Barack, is her home. She also reflects on how much she admires her parents' stable and committed relationship, especially as she's grown older. She goes on to tell a story about a friend who had been in a superficial, casual relationship with a man for over a year, only to realize that she had been hiding her true desire for a deeper, long-term connection. Obama argues that this kind of approach, keeping relationships easy and casual, can hinder emotional intimacy because it prevents people from being vulnerable and sharing their real feelings. She believes that meaningful, lasting relationships require openness, vulnerability, and communication. Reflecting on her own relationship with Barack, Obama appreciates how he pursued her with honesty and directness, which contrasted with the more indirect, hesitant approaches she had encountered in previous relationships. Obama also recalls the early days of her relationship with Barack, which eventually became long-distance when he continued law school on the East Coast while she remained in Chicago. When she first met Barack's family during a trip to Hawaii at the age of 25, she saw how deeply his family had shaped his personality. Barack's family was very open with their affection and tended to express their feelings directly, while Obama's family, in contrast, demonstrated love through consistency, such as spending Sundays together. Over time, Obama realized that their differing family dynamics and personalities led to clashes in their relationship. Barack, being more independent and introverted, often needed space, while Obama is more social and tends to be busier. They also approach conflict resolution differently. Barack prefers to address problems quickly, while Michelle needs time to process and reflect. She acknowledges that many of these differences stem from their respective upbringings, and that maintaining a healthy relationship requires patience, understanding, and communication. Obama also reflects on a trip with Barack where she witnessed his commitment to his family, which helped her understand that even when he was away due to work, he always made time for and prioritized family. This trip further solidified her understanding of Barack as a partner and reinforced her belief in the importance of family bonds. In Chapter 7, Obama reflects on the significant role her mother, Marion Robinson, played in her life, particularly during the years her family lived in the White House. Marion Robinson, known for her steady and unflappable personality, was initially reluctant to move into the White House. However, Obama convinced her to do so, believing that her mother's presence would provide a grounding influence on the family. Although Robinson wasn't fond of the formality of the White House, she agreed to stay for the sake of being close to her grandchildren. Despite the high-profile setting, Robinson maintained her independence and often preferred quiet time alone over attending official events. Obama expresses deep gratitude for her mother's role as the family's anchor during the intense scrutiny and pressure of the presidency. Obama also opens up about the challenges of parenting her teenage children while living in the White House. She admits to feeling anxious and guilty at times, fearing that the conflicts and discipline issues she faced were somehow creating a dysfunctional childhood for her kids in such a public and unusual environment. She reflects on how societal expectations of maternal perfection put pressure on mothers to live up to an idealized version of motherhood, causing guilt when they fall short. Even as her children are now adults, Obama continues to worry about them, finding comfort in conversations with her mother, who provides a steady source of reassurance. Obama jokes that her mother could write a parenting book, and she shares some of the valuable pearls of wisdom her mother imparted to her over the years. One key piece of advice was to help her children become more independent by teaching them to wake themselves up and manage basic tasks like doing their laundry or walking home from school. Obama also appreciates that her mother encouraged self-sufficiency and didn't overstep in how she helped solve problems. Another important lesson was to allow children the freedom to express themselves and enjoy meaningful interactions with adults, rather than forcing them into overly structured environments. Obama's mother also emphasized the importance of accepting and parenting the children you have, recognizing that each child brings their own personality and agency to the family dynamic. Obama shares a story of losing her patience with her children and how they responded differently. One child sought reassurance, while the other withdrew. She observes that her daughters have distinct personalities, one is cautious and thorough, the other more confident and independent, and she reflects on how important it is to understand and accommodate those differences. Another lesson from her mother was the importance of creating a positive home environment where children feel valued and seen. Obama recalls how, as a child, her mother often reassured her by saying, "We will always like you here," especially when Obama felt out of place or unwelcome in other settings. She closes the chapter by noting that once Barack's presidency ended, her mother was happy to move back to her home in Chicago, leaving the White House behind. In Chapter 8, Obama discusses the media's portrayal of wealthy, successful women who appear to perfectly balance their personal and professional lives, suggesting that these portrayals often overlook the reality of needing help from others. She emphasizes that no one achieves success alone and credits the many assistants who supported her during her time as First Lady. One assistant, China, became especially important to Obama, not only as her chief of staff but also as a close friend. Obama recalls a moment when China revealed that her father had been incarcerated, an admission that made her feel nervous and ashamed. Obama reassured China that she had nothing to be embarrassed about, praising the resilience and independence she had developed through her challenging experiences. This conversation helped China overcome her sense of imposter syndrome, and she became more open with others, no longer feeling the need to hide her past. Later, when China shared her story on Obama's podcast, she received a wave of positive and supportive messages from listeners who related to her experience. Obama uses this story to highlight how what may initially seem like a weakness can actually reveal someone's strength. The chapter then shifts to the events of January 6, 2021, when a mob of rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol to protest the 2020 presidential election results. Obama describes this event as one of the most frightening things she had ever witnessed. Despite her fear of further violence, Obama attended Joe Biden's inauguration, where she was moved by the poem delivered by young poet Amanda Gorman. Gorman's poem celebrated America's resilience and commitment to rebuilding and reconciling, with the line, "We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover," resonating deeply with Obama. The poem reminded Obama of the importance of continuing to work toward resolving the country's social and political issues. Obama later learned that Gorman had overcome an auditory processing disorder that made it difficult for her to pronounce certain words, especially the letter R. Gorman came to view her speech challenges as a strength, as they pushed her to experiment with sound and language, ultimately helping her develop her poetic voice. Obama sees people's differences as treasures and tools that can help cultivate inclusivity and broaden perspectives. She acknowledges, however, that reframing perceived weaknesses as strengths is not always easy, especially for people from marginalized communities who often face additional barriers to success. She admits that some individuals may need to work harder than others to achieve the same things, but she stresses that, when you do the work, you own the skills. They can't be lost or taken away. They are yours to keep and use forever. In closing the chapter, Obama reflects on the power of vulnerability and honesty, stating that by sharing our struggles, we often find that we are less alone and more connected to others than we initially believed. She encourages readers to approach other stories with respect, to keep confidences, and to resist gossip, emphasizing the importance of fostering a culture of understanding and support. In Chapter 9, Obama reflects on the pressure and vulnerability she felt while giving a speech at the 2008 Democratic National Convention, before her husband was elected president. When she realized that her left teleprompter wasn't working, she became nervous and felt wildly alone, and wildly exposed. As someone who values preparation, Obama credits her ability to handle the situation to the extensive preparation she had done. Her preparedness, which she sees as a form of armor, helped her deliver the speech smoothly despite the technical difficulties. This experience highlights Obama's tendency to plan and prepare thoroughly in order to mitigate anxiety. She then shifts to discussing her childhood aspirations and the challenges she faced growing up in a working-class neighborhood. Obama was always ambitious and dreamed of achieving big things, but she was also acutely aware of how society's expectations for kids from her community were low. Her school placed students into learning tracks based on teachers' perceptions of their abilities, leading Obama to fear that failure to maintain good grades would result in being relegated to the group that got less. This early experience with external judgments shaped her drive to prove herself. Obama observes that while children have big dreams, they often struggle to maintain them as they grow older and encounter more obstacles. She advises embracing the paradox of preparation and flexibility, planning and preparing for success, but also remaining open and adaptable to life's challenges. The chapter also revisits the theme of differentness and the discomfort of being a minority in a particular setting. Obama shares an anecdote about meeting Queen Elizabeth II, where she touched the Queen on the shoulder, a gesture that some commentators criticized as violating royal protocol. For Obama, this moment encapsulated the tension of feeling like an outsider in certain environments, where her presence often felt contingent on adhering to others' ideas of what was appropriate behavior. She reflects on how, like many black people, she code-switched during her youth, using African American vernacular with her neighborhood friends and adopting standardized speech in school to succeed academically. Obama acknowledges that, throughout her life, she often altered her presentation depending on the situation and the audience. She questions whether this kind of code-switching should be the norm, arguing that in a more inclusive society, people wouldn't have to change themselves to earn respect. Obama also reflects on her time at the law firm, where she worked with female partners who were highly driven and never discussed their personal lives. These women were often critical of her work, and Obama saw them as pioneers in a male-dominated field, working hard to prove their worth. While she didn't necessarily want to replicate their careers, she appreciated that their efforts paved the way for other women to succeed. Her experience at the firm taught her the value of being both armored and agile, being prepared and resilient while also being able to adapt to new situations. Obama advises people to stop focusing on their anxieties about fitting in or belonging, and instead focus on being authentic and contributing their unique skills and perspectives. The chapter concludes with Obama reflecting on the challenges of taking on the role of First Lady in 2008. As the first black woman to hold this title, she felt a heightened responsibility to represent black Americans well and to perform the role respectfully while also infusing it with her own ideas. She felt pressure to adhere to traditions but struggled to find a balance without becoming too defensive or armored up. The external expectations and judgments of others during her time in the White House had a lasting impact on her self-esteem and sense of identity, and she concludes the chapter by hinting that these perceptions often threatened her self-worth. In Chapter 10, Obama reflects on the challenges she faced as First Lady, particularly dealing with the media's portrayal of her. She was often labeled the angry black woman, a stereotype that was used to delegitimize her efforts and initiatives, including her campaign for healthy eating. The media caricatured her, making exaggerated claims about her motives, even suggesting that she wanted to criminalize junk food. Obama discusses how the concept of going high in response to such negativity became a moral challenge. She explains that going high doesn't mean avoiding conflict but fighting with integrity and decency, rising above the shallow, corrosive elements of society. Rather than reacting impulsively to criticism, she encourages people to channel their anger into actionable plans for positive change. Obama critiques modern technology for normalizing reactivity and rage. She points out how people often share quick, impulsive opinions online, seeking instant validation through likes and comments, without considering the long-term impact or taking meaningful actions. She warns that such reactions are hollow and don't create real change. Real change, according to Obama, requires thoughtful, sustained action, not just fleeting emotional responses. Drawing from her experience as First Lady, Obama reflects on the emotional toll of being in the public eye, where she was constantly exposed to the extremes of human experience, joy and anguish. She credits her father for teaching her how to go high in times of pain and hardship, which became the foundation for her famous phrase, "When they go low, we go high," coined during the 2016 campaign. She was unaware that the phrase would resonate so deeply with people, but it became a reminder that, while pain and uncertainty are inevitable, it is essential to maintain connections with others and avoid succumbing to cynicism. She emphasizes that social progress requires patience and hard work, and it cannot be achieved by abandoning hope. Obama acknowledges the frustration and impatience that young people often feel when faced with injustice and inequality. She recognizes the generational tension between reform and revolution in the pursuit of change. Reflecting on the progress made in racial equality during her lifetime, Obama shares that when she was a baby, activists were fighting for civil rights in the South, and interracial marriage was still illegal in many states. Her family's presence in the White House symbolized how far the country had come. She also recounts a story from Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, who had to confront racist imagery during her time at Harvard. Jackson realized that protesting these images distracted her from her education, which was another burden of racism. It diverted attention from one's goals. Obama takes this lesson to heart, choosing to focus on her work, particularly her collaborations with children and celebrities, despite the negative stereotypes directed at her. She urges others to do the same, focus on what matters and avoid being sidetracked by distractions. Looking to the future, Obama wonders how people will reflect on this tumultuous period of change. She hopes that, despite the challenges, people will use their creativity and imagination to fuel progress. She emphasizes the importance of maintaining a positive outlook, showing gladness for oneself and others, because such emotions can inspire others to achieve their goals. Her closing advice is to avoid easy reactions and instead commit to doing the work. She urges readers to remain vigorous and faithful, humble and empathetic because, in the end, it is always worth it to go high. In this final chapter, Obama ties together her personal and public journey, urging individuals to rise above negativity, stay focused on their true goals, and maintain integrity and kindness, even in the face of adversity.